The Bible pictures a certain configuration
Yes.
of world politics in the end times. And of course, the focus of it is Israel, that it would be reestablished and that all the nations of the world would come against Israel. We're seeing that. It would be surrounded by hostile Arab nations. There's very specific prophecies about that, that the old Roman Empire would come back into being, that Russia would be a menace to Israel. Just on that point, when C.I. Scofield wrote his study Bible in 1909, he made the comment that in the end times, Russia will lead a coalition against Israel and will invade Israel. Just stop for a moment and think about that. That's 1909. Israel did not exist. There was no possibility, it seemed, that Israel would ever exist, and that Russia was a Christian Orthodox nation. And people asked him, said, well, how can that be? How can a Christian Orthodox nation invade a nation that doesn't exist? And his answer was, I don't know. I can't explain it, but the Bible says it, and therefore I believe it. And today we can see very easily that it's going to happen.
Now be on Ukraine. But as Amir said, and often says, and rightfully so, listen, Bible prophecy is winding down to one geographic area of the world comprised of some 8,000 square miles, and that is the nation of Israel. And this is really what is driving the force. And when you find that someone is motivated by evil, you can be sure that Satan is behind it. And these economic things that are happening with this advancement of Russia into Ukraine and basically gaining control over the natural resources we just talked about a moment ago, that includes access to natural gas through Europe, which is a mainstay, as well as petroleum products, which is a mainstay of the Russian economy. 60% of the Russian economy is petroleum-based products and natural gas products or energy-related products, and they can't afford to have competition coming from Israel or anywhere else. And with the fourth largest natural gas pipeline in Ukraine and all the other natural resources, we see that the economic motivation behind the invasion, eventually that will happen in Israel, is already in play.
Right now, Russian troops in Syria, Iranian troops in Syria, these nations coming together, Turkey now becoming more and more militant in their position against Israel and pro-Russia. All these things are happening right before our very eyes. I'm going to talk about just a minute about how I believe this will be provoked. But we see all these things happening right now. And so Russia is going to attack Israel. That's one of the things I'm saying. There's going to be a Russian Muslim alliance, and they're going to attack Israel. So let me talk specifically about Russia. You say, well, why would Russia attack Israel? Well, to gain a military advantage, a strategic advantage. Israel is a very, very strategic, literally, Israel's the crossroads of the world. Africa, the Middle East, Europe, Asia, this is the center of it right there with a Mediterranean seaport. And so very strategic piece of land. However, the big deal is Israel has recently discovered massive deposits of natural gas off their coast. Okay, this is an article here, and it says Israel EU gas pipeline to compete with Russia. So think about that for just a minute. Russia sells Europe much of their oil, their heating oil, and much of their oil, because Russia is oil rich. And they use it not just to get rich, they use it to control Europe. Anytime one of these European nations is getting out of line, Russia says, wait just a minute, and I'll cut off your oil.
Deal, and it potentially has prophetic implications that reach into the tribulation period. And as I said, this hook in the jaw, I think is very, very possible that the hook is in the mouth of Gog and it's about to be set by the Lord, because it's the Lord that's going to draw them down from the north and create this invasion. And I think that's about to happen, because, Satan and the Lord are about to throw down in battle during the tribulation period. And of course, we know the Lord's going to win.